But with all this fucking going on, does anybody have the right to tell you that you can't be happy at any fucking point in time? You might as well just fucking deny all of it. If you consider everything, what the fuck does it matter? All the people that have existed, all the time that has passed, you think you fucking matter? Why don't you just choose to be fucking happy then? It doesn't fucking matter. So that you can lick it, you can split it, you can all of a sudden get with it. Nothing really exists, you see, because all of it is idea. It's all mentally. Let it be known. Secret songs for someone. What part of me enjoys this? What part of me doth fly? What part of me enjoys this? Have you ever seen me and missed? What part of me enjoys this? What part of me explains this? Coming to see how I miss all that could be. For what though? Even if though, I then go. What for though? Make it or break it. Does heaven forsake it? Can then the wrong end then be our real friend? What is then the real end? If not but a dead end. So by waking our eyes and dipping our toes into the snow as cold as it goes, we walk on in fire that grows ever higher. I think I can read more that associates with all of this. You see, reading is maybe sort of, again, like that idea that we're aware, that we're conscious that there actually is a fight, which maybe volition is the most close relation to power because it's another word that means before, but perhaps volition is, again, apprehension, which maybe is what true power is because it fears itself, which means that perhaps maybe power sees itself in everything, so that it fears this connection that perhaps maybe it has less places to go. As you can see here, I took the initiative upon myself to render an idea into my physical world. Now, if we are to look at truth itself, I think that what we would find is that truth is something that takes time and experience. If we are to get to the closest idea of the truth as possible, which itself denotes a perspective or perception, because things are then looked at linearly instead of being completely circularly, which would mean that everything becomes everything ultimately, even if it's opposite, and then goes nowhere as far as it began, which is the idea of structure and power itself. But it is from that place that we either hold or remove form to give us a sense of things being done or a sense that more should be done. So if we look at every idea as a possibility and we are to try to retain as much truth as possible in our definition of the truth itself, then what parts of the truth matter the most? I think in your decision of how you represent the truth both in word and in deed is not only a small choice but a big choice, as well as you have identified what your idea is. It may not seem to be in good favor that the truth is something which can be spun. However, I reject the idea that this negates the idea of truth, as when we consider objects that are independent yet related in small ways and big ways with certain amounts, we see that mass can be a determining factor for not only things astronomical but carnal as well. It is when a thing has mass that it actually gains the ability to move. Pure light is as a point that has never gone anywhere, inclusive to all hypotheticals as much as any reality, by which we can explain the language itself is not a physical thing, yet the closer our language comes to the truth, the more it is an idea of what could be, what brings us closer to the physical nature of all things, what has never moved. So all of life is a language that expresses itself from one rule. That one rule is nothing is still. So the greater anything's mass is, the closer we are to the idea of truth. Yet because we know that nothing is still for anything to be, for it is becoming more near to the idea of everything becoming a hypothetical from everything being one thing, it is then that mass itself translates to motion, and the reason for all things is to move. It therefore becomes apparent that when anything becomes a possibility, it can be manipulated in this way as an idea that is from something that doesn't move. Yet the closer we get to the truth, the more that everything moves. It is from this idea that we have an idea of the truth, but as truth is from time and experience, there is no real way of knowing what the future is, and that a certain thing is a part of the truth or not. So then there is the immovable object present in the future as something we cannot know for sure, yet the more experience we use, the more that the future then becomes a hypothetical for all reason. So you can't interact with any idea in this way. As for its experience and gaining mass for interpretation upon an amount of its mass, this will relate to how much you can relate an idea to something that doesn't move, where any idea is as true as much as the experience used to make it makes any idea true. Being in the motion of this idea, the only truth to be told is mass from which any motion can be made. A sense of there being difficulty. For perhaps maybe difficulty is itself our inability to fully understand, and in this way we cannot describe it being difficult or easy actually, but it serves as a learning experience to possibly learn more about who we are as truly. We can only be compared to ourselves, which ironically leads to misunderstanding, where understanding ourselves fully is accepting, but truly, it can never be over. All right, everybody, I got something new, so I tried to make something new to approach it with, and these have sort of been my thoughts as to truly the idea of connection, which I think results in the idea of the truth, but it's a dichotomy itself, because the more that everything is connected, I think that it actually takes away from the truth, which there are multiple things. And so it is like power, because power itself seems to be a description, but one that comes before. Perhaps the power of power is like pure potential, but it knows a real point. Perhaps that the point is potential, and that every point of potential ends in a potential, giving there to be types of powers by how the connection from one point of potential goes to the next. So then power has some relation to the truth. If it requires two things, if the truth simply means that there is always another, then perhaps real power would be ending, proving everything to simply be the potential of another thing. From there you could say that there is either no real power because everything is the same and power runs off of two things, that real power is the connection of two things, or I guess that everything has power until you say it goes somewhere, which is like saying if you have power, you don't need power. True power doesn't need power. So the more you try to attain power, the less power you're saying you have, unless you can make a connection between 2 points to show power. And the power of a point is as strong as the art of direction, which either comes with skill, investment, maybe chance. Here's the point that I'm using. This is, I would call a foxhead point. And I mean, I went pretty good. Like, I got it pretty good. But yeah, I'm just saying if anything matters, you know what I mean? Like, really, if anything matters, like, do thoughts matter? Do all this stuff matter? I mean, I think to an extent what you're being reminded of, I'll show you what I'm being reminded of even. But it was just like, basically, when I was looking through it, I knew that it was right. But it was so much information, the only thing that I could actually process was completely staring at it. It was like completely a stare. Like I had a staring contest with it almost. Like a don't blink kind of moment, right? So that I could follow everything, perhaps. And in that way I was sort of basically able to put everything where it was supposed to go. I probably basically, like if I relate it back to basics, like paying a certain amount of attention to something, like actually really watching something and paying attention, I didn't lose focus. And it was like a very grand display of an extraneous amount of dimensions. I'll show you it, but it's completely what I'm being reminded of right now. And I feel like that's a good place to stop. Which I'm okay if that's what it represents, so. I mean, when you're doing things, you're being continuously, whether you're here focusing on something or you're focusing on something else. Like this was allowed me to focus on it, but at the same point in time, I could focus on where it was going and what was doing and how everything was reacting around it at the exact same time while I was focusing on it. And so I could basically see other things at the exact same time while I was seeing it and see it change and the things around it change. And then perhaps relate myself to being something that I believed in something. Like I could actually witness something and feel like I was a part of it at the exact same time. But I mean, the reason why kind of thoughts matter to me is just because I have way too many coincidental moments where it's like something that I'm like thinking, and then literally something will basically occur. And it's like there's too much coincidence of just like there's no way that like I was gathering information about what was going to happen. There's too much information about going on what was going to happen, but on my mind I thought something exactly, and it basically almost, like I said, you can't build relation to it based on what you're observing in the moment, but then all of a sudden I have a thought and something happens, and it's like the timing and the space between the thought and happening. The only thing I can think of is maybe subconsciously I'm actually influencing something, but there have been times when it's been not necessarily with something involved with my doing as well. It's things extraneous to me and something happens. But perhaps, you know, for some a reason, or an explanation for some of it at least, is maybe perhaps that it's like subconsciously I'm thinking something exactly as it's happening or whatever, you know what I mean? But then I think that there really is some sort of real genuine nature to the idea that like I am in complete control and I have complete control. And the idea that I sort of don't know what I'm doing and being able to stop where I did and understand how everything works in this space, like I think that all my objects kind of speak for themselves in relation to like my being able to put something back together, basically. Like I feel like that ring, I basically took it apart and put it back together, kind of. And I'll show you what it's reminding me of completely. This. But I mean, this was exactly what I said, just barely, but I mean, I think there's certainly some connection there. If like I'm literally working on the roundness of the object, basically that's what I was doing. Is I was sitting there working on the roundness. Obviously, it hit something pretty hard, and it's 24 karat gold, so it became deformed or whatever. But then I was just like, okay, well, you know, and basically I was just trying to do a bunch of tricks because I wanted to do something that shows that it's for something else. It serves a different purpose than what everybody else thinks that it does. You know what I mean? And for whatever reason, you know what I mean? Like really, if I did want to edit everything, it's like I got a bunch of pretty good shots, and I'm basically gonna label this video "Do not watch this video," so that if anybody watches it, like they already know. And I'm gonna have this be a point of relation because most of my stuff doesn't necessarily connect that bluntly, but I think that this one will connect that bluntly. And I think that if somebody does then watch it, I think that it'll hit really hard. But I mean, as I was sitting there working on the basically shape of the object, I all of a sudden just like threw it, and it's like there's so many things I could see. You know what I mean? Considering everything that I've done, and obviously you relate what you're doing to things that you identify with, or you identify with similar circumstances and things like that, right? But I mean, there's just so many things I could identify with, and I feel like it was just a satisfactory place for me to stop when I was looking at it, and it just reminded me of this. I feel like this is sort of a great basic explanation of kind of my philosophy and what I'm trying to do, and you know, if there was any gold in it at all, it's something that is dreamlike. As if you were to really get down to it, you'd see like, you know, something of so much purpose that it makes you feel like there's only one chance to it, and that's like life, basically. But the funny thing is it has so much purpose that it is basically eternal at the same time, but it's just the dichotomy of that relation of something that has so much purpose. It basically means that it's very limited and very special, and you should really try to understand and identify with every moment and live it in the presence and make the best choices that you can and try to be the best person that you can be.